Hey Gators and sports fans, get all your Gator talk, news, analysis, and opinions on the Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning podcast. Find us on your favorite podcast platform or watch us on Facebook Live between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. every weekday. Pod Up, because we are Gator fans. So say it's great to be a Florida Gator.
Good morning and welcome to a Monday edition of Pod Up with Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. We got JC here in just a second. We got Scott Carter from FloridaGators.com. Recap what happened in the Gator Bowl over there in Jacksonville. Pretty much what I think most people expected. We hung around while we could, but let's go to the Take No More hotline. Let's get JC's perspective. I'm worn out. It was last 4 or 5 days have worn me out, but I'm here, JC. I'm here. Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning, QB. It's good to see you up there in Jacksonville at the cocktail party. And, you know, it was a great environment, great atmosphere. I give Florida a lot of credit for hanging in there. I wish, 2 minutes and 9 seconds of chaos hadn't have happened. Then I would have stayed for the second half. But after the pick six, it was time to go and beat the traffic. And, there have been games in this series where it's gotten lopsided or sideways pretty quick. But then there's also been games where the team that was not expected to win hung around and made it interesting all the way to the end. And Florida's defense, I thought, played probably its best it's played, I guess, up to this point, QB. But offensively, very challenged football team. I mean, we've seen it all year long with the penalties. We've seen it all year long with the turnovers and just making some really confusing plays there to ruin what was a really great defensive effort. I mean, when Gators picked the ball off in the end zone and, they brought it out to the 1 or 2 yard line, I knew that was going to be a problem because you get Georgia's defense back. You put yourself in a position where Georgia's defense is coming at you on your own 1 or 2 yard line. Typically, that's not a good thing. And so the game got away from the Gators, and I think we've all seen the season somewhat get away. And, just try to do the best they can to finish it out positively.
Well, the next 4 teams aren't very good.
No, they're not.
You would think we could win those. But, we had 3 turnovers. Georgia had 3. We finally got some. I thought our defense, just their effort was like night and day compared to what they did in LSU. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching. But that's what defense is all about, attitude and effort. And I thought they came out and played extremely well. But we just we're not a good enough throwing football team to beat anybody. I mean, it's that simple.
We said this, in January? I mean, you've been saying for 10 months that the passing game is not going to exist as we had seen it last season, and it's anything but that. I mean, it is really challenged. And when you can't throw the football in today's game and you have very little options, look, I don't think it's fair to judge Anthony right now after a game like this against a team like that. I mean, if you ask me, he should have played more against Vanderbilt. He should have played more prior to this game. But I don't know if it really makes any difference. If you don't have guys that can get over, you don't have guys that can run around, you don't have, a passing attack, then you're kind of dead in the water without a rudder.
Yeah, Joseph says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Meldon Law, the only official law firm part of the Florida Gators. How about the shade Kirby threw at Dan in the post-game press conference, pretty much saying Dan sucks at recruiting? Did you see that? Did you see that?
No,
JC?
I missed that.
You got to look on Twitter. But I'm going to read something that I got off of Twitter, and this is pretty – this blows your mind.
Okay.
It came from Ross Dellinger.
Uh-huh.
He said, Cruton came up in both Kirby Smart and Dan Mullen's press conferences, so they dug up some numbers. This is in the last 4 years, 4 cycles. Georgia leads the country in 5-star signings with 20. Florida has just signed 2, and I don't even know who those 2 are.
Wow.
Georgia has signed 16% of the 5-star prospects in America since 2018, more than anybody else.
Yeah, Kirby's look for all the shit, all the crap that Kirby takes from time to time with his critics. I mean, I don't know.
Basically, what he said in his interview was, he's like, "Look, if anybody, and I wish I had it, and I'm gonna try to paraphrase, but I'll probably butcher it. He was saying no coach in America at any level is going to out coach recruiting, meaning no matter who you are, you could scheme here and there, but in the long run, the team with the better players are going to win. And he basically said, we're good on defense because we got some of the best players in America. And I mean, he also said in that, he goes, my wife and my kids understand that I'm going to spend more time with other people's families than my own family, but they've bought into that. And so it was a lot. I mean, he basically was telling it like it is. And
well, I mean, you know,
Georgia's got some dudes, man.
Yeah, if you outwork the other guys, you know, competitively speaking, you're gonna do better. You know, when Spurrier was here, he didn't spend as much time. I don't know. It just didn't feel like he was as hard a recruiter, but he was able to find some certain guys and really turn them out to be great players and get what he needed. You know, right now we're in a situation where in the state of Florida, with all the schools that play and all the players that are here, you would think Florida could do, you know, at least keep up with Alabama, Georgia to some respect, but it doesn't feel like that's happening. And so you're right. You see the talent divide on the field, and that's why you have 3 touchdowns in 2 minutes and 9 seconds beat you, because the players start believing different things when you get a tsunami hit you like that, and it just one thing leads to another. But listen, Georgia, you know, aside from the closeness of the game before that 2 minutes and 9 seconds, you could see it on the field. I mean, we sat really close to the field. We had outstanding seats, and I could just tell just by looking at these guys that Georgia was. I mean, that's a team that is pretty, as they say, and they're really good. I mean, they're so athletic. I mean, this is the closest thing that they've had, I think, to a real. Well, maybe not the closest, but this is one of those national championship type looking teams, if you ask me. Yeah.
Brian says, referring to Kirby here on Facebook Live, but he hasn't done anything with those 5 stars. Now they may win it all this year, but we have done more with less. But yes, I want more 5-star. I see where he's coming from, but I mean, Kirby's played for a national championship. He's won an SEC. He also lost in the 14 playoff to Oklahoma.
And no, I think
right?
they beat Oklahoma.
No, they beat Oklahoma.
They won that game in the Rose Bowl, and they had Alabama down, you know, in the overtime, and it was 2nd and 26 before Tua hit them. But listen, they were good enough to win it that year. Everybody knows that. So if you're good enough to win it, then you could say that. Yeah, the thing is, the school here is just they're not close right now.
Well, it's like I said, and I hate saying this. I think we only have one player that could have started for their starting 22.
You said that a lot.
Kyrie Elam.
You said that about Alabama too. You said that the same thing with the Alabama team you saw. Even though it was a close game, you know, you look at these players and, you know, you look at the consistency. That's what you get with players like this, is that you get a consistency each week. Because listen, their stuff is on tape. They are trying to get to the NFL, and they know they can't dog it because that's what scouts see. If you go out there and you ham and egg it. And these players are trying to get to the Sunday games. That's what they want to do. These guys that you see playing for Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and so forth, they're trying to get to Sunday. And what they put on film is that's what's going to get them there.
Our one of our stat guys, Rick here, he did some research. He put up the Kirby Smart presser. Appreciate that, Rick. We got a text on the Titan MR text line. It comes from Daryl. Daryl says, good morning, guys. Shane, I think the game turned on Rashard Torrance's interception on Stetson Bennett. I think he should have stayed in the end zone, and that way they could have brought it out to the 20. I'm trying to think, what was the score at that time? Still 3-0?
It was 3-0. That's what started this cavalcade of
here's where I think we screwed up, if that's the best way to say it. I don't know if Copeland would start for Georgia, David, but we'll see. Okay. When we were driving, I think it was, I don't know if it was 3-0, nothing. We were going south to the south end zone.
Yeah.
And we decided for some reason to run a trick play on 2nd and 20-something.
All right.
You don't run a trick play on 2nd and long. You only run that when it's a down and distance where the defense has to honor everybody on the field. But we threw the double pass. Thought it was a terrible play call. And then you don't go for it on 4th and 13 when you can't throw the football at all. You try a field goal. If the guy misses it, he misses it. But you don't just try. I mean, that right there to me changed the entire, I don't say outcome, but that right there, I was like, it's going to be a long day.
Well, it took a lot of wind out of Florida sails, to use the cliche, but QB, you're right. You got to get points up on the board. You got to keep kids believing on the sideline, and it almost felt desperate. I mean, 4th and 13 almost feels desperate, and it's not time for that.
But you don't run a trick play on 2nd and 15 or whatever it was.
Yeah, okay, that may be true, but I couldn't understand why they went for it. But I agree with you on the trick play. I mean, of course, you know what they say about trick plays, QB. If they work, you're a genius. If they don't work, you look like a stew nod. But I believe that 4th and 13, when you can't throw the ball or haven't shown any ability to stretch the field. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're expecting.
Nat says UGA was waiting on that double. Well, I mean, it was the most clear double pass I've ever seen in America. Anthony lines up 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage out as a wide receiver. Emory comes in the game. And like I told you, you run those when it's 2nd and 4 on the 25 going in when they think you may run and let it. Well, I don't know if we got another receiver that can throw it. What I'm saying is when you put in another quarterback, it's very obvious what's getting ready to happen.
Yeah. Well, and did Florida get the ball on the start of the second half? I'm trying to remember. I think Florida got the kickoff.
Yes, we did.
Okay. So what Brady says is that, in the middle of the game, this is where Belichick really does well. And it's where if you have possession at the very end and then you're getting possession at the beginning of the second half, you can do a lot of damage in a game or really change the trajectory of how it's going. And when they picked off the pass and took it out to the 2-yard line, and troubles came from there. That was just these are the little bitty things that championship teams do and don't do. And gosh, getting the ball on the 25-yard line down 3-0, knowing that you have the ball to kick off the second half. Maybe I'm going way too far above people's heads, but in the middle of the game, you can really do some damage, and or at least keep the game reasonable, and it got away right there. And on the pick six,
even when you're down 10-0 after they scored after the fumble, I would have still just turned around and handed it off to go to halftime
and go into the locker room because you're still in it at that point.
Yeah, because we're like I told you, we can't, and we're not a very good throwing football team. I mean. And John says Emory came in and looked good. I thought Emory did play well, but it is what it is. So
at that point, really, it was 34.
Right, but JC now, but you got to remember, flip the switch. If Anthony had come in at the end of the game and done something like that, what would you have heard of? He needs to play.
Well, I see that, but I also want to make it very clear that judging Anthony Richardson against a team like this is not fair to him, to me, because he hasn't had the prep, he hasn't had the reps, he hasn't had the time on the field, and now you're throwing him in there in the fire against the best defense in America. So to me, it just seems somewhat unfair. But I understand. Listen, this 2-quarterback thing all year has been just such a blatant distraction that it's no surprise these guys are 4-4. It's just not. I mean, if it is, then tell me what I'm missing, because I've seen mistakes, I've seen interceptions, and that's just been the defining character of this football team. A lot of mistakes. It's just so many that you can't get over it sometimes. Now they've got 3 games coming up here against just absolutely dismal football teams. Right. I mean, so now people are going to see a 7-4 team going into FSU and at least have some sort of optimism about playing somewhere for a bowl game. But the point is that
maybe we can go to the Music City Bowl.
The Music City Bowl in Nashville.
I would love that.
A lot of fans would. Well, I'm sure you would, but that would be a lot better than something in Orlando or Tampa. But I don't know. I mean, and then that Florida State game. I'm sure we'll talk about this in a minute. But mistakes really do define who you are, and right now Florida's not a very good team. They're an average, mediocre football team.
Lucas said it's the worst throwing team he's seen in his last 15 years. Chris says, did you notice that we had very little pre-snap wide receiver shifts, not helping the QB out? And well, the reason I would say we didn't do a lot of wide receiver motioning and stuff is because Georgia is a zone defense, and running people in motion is not going to do you any good. That's to recognize man coverage.
Yeah.
Brandon wants to know, how can the Gators improve for next season?
Find some players on the outside that can get open, and find a guy that can get it to them.
Throwing and catching. That's how you win football.
That's it. Get a guy back there who can stay in a pocket and zing it, and use his legs, then get some receivers who can get open.
I was at a bunch of different functions over the weekend with a bunch of Georgia people and other people. Yeah. And, we were talking, JC, if you go back the last 10 or 15 years, and, we didn't have the stats in front of us, but we were sitting there talking and having a few drinks and trying to figure it out. How many teams that have a, quote, dual threat guy, more of a runner, have won a national championship in the last 10 or 15 years?
Well, can
you think of anybody?
I can think of one, and you may not think of him as that kind of guy, but he was when he played. He's not good enough to play in the pros, but in the college ranks, Cardale Jones did all of that at the end of the year.
Cardale Jones didn't run the ball at all. He was
I thought he did. I saw him running a bunch of plays in the game against Alabama. Yeah, he did.
No, I'm talking about where they call quarterback runs. He may have scrambled, but Cardale Jones was a pocket statue. We couldn't think of anybody.
Well,
Lauren brings up a good one, Deshaun Watson, but man, he could throw the football.
Yeah, but he could move. Lauren's right.
But I'm not saying. Here's what I'm trying to say. You need to win in college football. You need a pure thrower who can run a little bit. That's Deshaun Watson. He was athletic, very accurate. I mean, hell, look what he's done. He's not playing this year, but he was a really good thrower.
Or you could be a Mac Jones and have All-Americans everywhere. That
Mac Jones. Well, Brian says Cam and Tebow. I said in the last 15 years. Has that been 15 years? Yeah. So anyway, but Tim wasn't a great thrower, but I hear he was a great football player, and he had dudes around him.
Yeah, Percy Harvin,
tons of first rounders.
Right.
So anyway, turn your car or truck into a rolling billboard for your business or brand with an eye-catching vehicle wrap from Wrap Spot this November. It's already November, JC. Mention promo code Shane, receive 13% off your vehicle.
QB, how about this 46 degrees we've got going on out here? Bryce Young is a guy that can do some damage if he gets better throwing.
But they don't call. Well, my point is they don't call runs for him.
Right?
Have you seen Alabama call a run for him?
They do not. They do not. But he can. I mean, he did against Tennessee.
But what I'm saying is, I don't think you can win in today's football calling quarterback power 5 to 8 times a game. I just don't.
Yeah.
You're gonna get your quarterback hurt.
Right. No, he's not going to last. Yeah, that's true. And that's kind of what Mullen's game is, isn't it? I mean, that's it. I mean, Nick Fitzgerald would run the ball before he ever thought about passing it, right? That's just the coach you have here. And so are you saying that Dan Mullen has trouble scheming up passing play? I mean, look at what Kyle Trask did last year.
But was Kyle Trask, would you say he's a runner?
No.
Okay, that's my point. That's where I'm going with this.
Yeah, but Florida's defense last year sucked. But they had the offense that was good enough with everybody playing to win a lot of games. They just didn't stop anybody.
But now I don't think people understand what I'm saying. David says Baker Mayfield is a runner. I'm not. Lincoln Riley never called quarterback runs for Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield scrambled. That's my point.
Yeah. Well, right, and like I said, nobody was going to win a national title with a Nick Fitzgerald type of quarterback, is what you're saying, right? So. Florida's got to find somebody who can sling it, and I don't know why that's so difficult here.
Well,
do you?
We'll see. So let's switch gears a little bit. Okay. Joseph says Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence could run enough to pick up for. I picked up first downs running the football. Danny did too. We didn't have plays called for us to run it. That's what I'm trying to get people here saying. Yeah. We need a guy who can pinpoint. Throw the football on a consistent basis, and when things break down, run around, make a couple plays. That's all.
How would you like to have Sam Hartman right now, or somebody like that? But you got to get the dudes that can get out there and make plays as well. Remember, Kyle Pitts, half the passes he seemed to catch were because of what he was able to do, as opposed to where the ball was.
Well,
I mean, he beat double teams and things like that. You got to have guys out there that can pull it down and win games for you, like what Amari Cooper did last night for the Cowboys. Speaking of that, yesterday, just to change the subject for a second, did you see all the backups that won yesterday? The Jets had one with Mike White.
Yeah, Western Kentucky.
Right. So the Jets.
They're for 400-something yards.
Yeah. The Cowboys. Sure. The Cowboys with Cooper Rush at the end of the game there, not making mistakes and throwing the ball, getting it out to Cooper and players like that. Then you had, Geno Smith even won yesterday. Then you had another one that
he was playing your Jags.
And then who was the other guy that was a winner that backed up yesterday? There was another one. It was unbelievable what happened in the NFL yesterday. I thought it was great.
Well, NFL, crazy things happen. I mean, who would ever thought the Jets would beat the Bengals?
Well, that's true,
and
but
then you had Trevor Siemian beating Tom Brady and the Bucs.
That's who I'm talking about for the Saints. Trevor Siemian.
You just don't roll into the Caesars Superdome anymore and beat the Saints.
Not when they look like. Yeah.
They had that's the best uniform in the history of the game of football. Yes. The Saints throwback, all whites.
Of course,
there's not a better uniform in the world.
I agree.
JC, are you wearing a Wake Forest hat?
You dang tootin', baby! That team is undefeated, and once again, if it were the Clemson Tigers undefeated in that conference, they would be ranked number 2 in the country or 1. But because it's Wake Forest, well, by golly, we're not going to even talk about it. But the polls come out tomorrow, I believe. So the first playoff committee lineup, I really can't wait to see what they do with Wake. Now with Pittsburgh,
I'm going to tell you this right now. Cincinnati has zero business being in the 14 play.
But they're going to be number 2.
No, they're not. They're going to. SMU, I think, is going to beat them. But even if they go undefeated, they will not make. I'm going to say it right now. They will not make the 14 playoff. No way. They have not been impressive.
So give me this. Yeah. Well, somebody asked me this scenario. He said, "How about if Alabama, who's 3 in the AP poll, wins at Auburn, then loses to Georgia on a last-second field goal, but has 2 losses? Do you keep them out of it?"
Alabama?
Yeah.
Alabama needs to worry about getting to Atlanta.
Oh, I know, but they've got Auburn in their way. That's the only team that's going to beat.
Don't forget, A&M controls the destiny too. If Alabama
loses,
if A&M beats Auburn this week, and then Auburn beats Alabama, A&M will go.
Right, but Alabama has to be. That's like I just said. They have to beat Auburn on the road. Now, here's another scenario: if Auburn loses to A&M, and then Auburn loses to Mississippi State, and A&M loses to Ole Miss, then Alabama doesn't have to beat Auburn. So there's 2 scenarios there.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios. I think people.
No, that's just 2.
There's a lot of stuff that can happen.
Well,
so it's either Alabama. So there's only 3 teams that have a chance to go from the West, in my opinion.
Right.
Alabama, A&M, or Auburn.
That's it.
Yeah.
But Ole Miss and Mississippi State can have a say in some of this because Ole Miss plays A&M at home in 2 weeks. You get a healthy Matt Corral.
I don't know if Ole Miss can stop those damn running backs at A&M.
Right. Well, but Ole Miss needs to be, they need to get healthy. They play Liberty this weekend, so a chance to maybe get healthy, but they'll be running around the field with those guys. But Mississippi State, we don't pay much attention to them. They throttled Kentucky. They throttled them, and people just, they could be 7-1. You take away that fluke at Memphis that should not have happened. This is a team that's just can shock you. And Auburn is the team that, let's say they beat A&M and they come in riding high, and then Mississippi State sneaks in there and beats them. You're right. There's a lot of things that can happen, but for Alabama, they have to win at Auburn. But
it's simple. Alabama has to win all their games.
Yeah, but let's just say this. What if, knowing how great Georgia is, Alabama and Georgia play in the SEC championship game? Everybody says Alabama has to beat them. Okay.
Alabama's not getting in with 2 losses, Jason.
Okay. But if Alabama loses on a last-second field goal to the Georgia Bulldogs and Cincinnati just cakewalks through, I guess, they're going to stick Cincinnati in.
Dude, you're forgetting about Oklahoma and Ohio State and those teams, okay?
No. I'm talking about the last spot. Right.
Okay.
And Cincinnati
I'm going to read some of these Facebook Lives before they run away here. I'm going to read them, and then we'll talk about them. Bubba wants to know, what are our thoughts on the TCU parting ways with Gary Patterson after 20-plus years? Then John says, Lane has got to learn to kick field goals. Everyone has mentioned him at Florida. He would drive us nuts with his analytics. He just does some dumb crap.
It's crazy.
It's not even dumb. It's stupid.
He's just playing video games, it seems like. It's just nuts. I got a name for you. You talk about Gary Patterson. I don't know where he's going to end up. He'll probably take a year off. Kalani Sitake, I told you this a month and a half ago, and you laughed and giggled. But I really believe that's a name for Southern Cal. I do, at BYU coach. I mean, I think the culture out there, the fact that he's got this heavy – Kalani Sitake, BYU is a great – look, I didn't say that. I said that 2 months ago. I heard a Pac-12 guy say that, a very notable Pac-12 analyst say that on Saturday. So you say no way, but you want James Franklin? The guy doesn't even know who he's playing this week or last week. He didn't even know where he was going last week, James Franklin. I don't know.
I don't think they want him out there. I don't know who TCU hires. I mean, Gary Patterson's done a tremendous job there. They'll hire some. They'll hire like Lincoln Riley's brother, who's the OC at SMU. Yeah, be a short little move for him.
Maybe they'll hire.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't really.
Maybe they'll hire a Kendall Briles or somebody like that.
I think Kendall Briles is going to end up at like Texas Tech.
Well, I don't know. What's the difference? TCU and Texas Tech? Is there a difference?
Well, there really isn't. No, you're right. I don't even know. Is TCU, what conference are they going to be in next year?
Well, they're still in the Big 12, believe it or not.
Okay.
Playing out at Fort Worth, yeah.
Real quick, JC, we had somebody on here ask about how I can't remember who it was because it's not on Facebook anymore, but could you imagine losing money as the Florida State backers did against Clemson?
Oh, that is just such a shame because they played well and they just let it get away there. But yeah, you not only lost the side at minus or plus 9.5, but you lost the total if you took the under because the total was 47.5 and it went to 50 on that play. That's that's bad beat country right there. And so Florida State, good effort, but they're a miserable team. I mean, listen, Florida's very fortunate, let's just say this, that they're playing some really bad teams to finish out the year. Go 7-4, 8-4, be done with it.
Well, Florida State has improved. Hang a lot. Loreno here says on Facebook Live, who is the front runner to be our next defense coordinator if we lose ours? Any thoughts? I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start. Right
now, I just want to see this guy find some players who can score points, help the team score. It's just, they need some receivers. You want a thrower. They just need stuff. They need things.
Kerry wants to know on the Titan Amar text line, any word on the AR injury? I haven't heard anything.
No, I don't think. Listen, I'm not giving up on Anthony. I think he's. I
think he's exactly what Dan wants. I mean, that's what he's always had. But I go back to, I wonder why we don't go recruit guys like what we saw with Kyle Trask last year. That's my only.
Right. I mean, you got Steve Spurrier walking around the building over there. I mean,
what does he got to do with it?
Well, I mean, go after some of the. Talk to him about it. I'm sure they do. I know they do.
It's a different philosophy, dude. It's a different philosophy.
Well, then maybe we need to get to that philosophy because this one here is going 8-4 every year. Is it not?
Okay, real quick, JC, before we get to Scott Carter. How did the Peachland Dentistry weekend picks go?
I love a guy that asks a question when he knows the answer. Okay, well,
I don't know who you picked because I wasn't on the show. I just my picks.
You flipped the card. You flipped the card. You went 9-2. Should have gone 10-1. That's what they call a dream weekend in Vegas, and you had it. You lost the Florida State game and the Ohio State game. You won everything else. You won Baylor, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Auburn, Mississippi State, Georgia, Saints, and Seahawks. You won all of it. This guy here goes 4-7. So now on the year, horrible. So I'm arriving on a plane and leaving on a bus. So basically, your season total now is a respectable 53-51, and I am 50-54. You gained 5 games on me over the weekend. So I've got some work to do to catch up in November. But don't give up on me. Good job though on your part. You did. I mean, hell yeah, 9-2. That's. I mean, you never see that anywhere in the media. Somebody saying, I actually went 9-2, and then say, I believe that. Well, it happened.
I put so much time. I put so much time into that. When you text me the games, I was up there at Sea Island for Danny's event, and I just looked at it and I go, okay, I'll just text back. That's how long it took me to figure out who to take.
Well, how about 9-2? While the rest of them were spending days and days and days, you went 9-2. So that is a noteworthy week, and you should be congratulated. And I'm impressed.
All right, JC, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Wednesday, my man.
You got it. See you then.
That's JC. Join us on the Titan MR hotline. Going to take a timeout. Come back, talk to the senior writer at FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. You're watching and listening to Pot Up with Matthews in the Morning.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Adams Rib Company, Doreen Wiebe Realtor, Caldwell Banker MM Parish, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Wrap Spot, Okido America, Gators Dockside, Style Cuts, Big Mills Cheesesteaks. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Celebration points where the Gators go to celebrate with premium brands like Nike, Prime and Pearl, Regal Cinemas, Le Macaron, Dave & Buster's, Bass Pro Shops, and the HBC's restaurant, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. Now serving brunch on Saturday and Sundays. We'll see you at Celebration Point where the Gators go to celebrate. We're going to now go to the Titan MR hotline. We're going to be joined by a senior writer for the FloridaGators.com, Scott Carter. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Shane, doing well, man. Just starting a fresh week. It's a good fresh week for the Gators. I think they need one, right?
We do. It's November 1st, believe it or not. And guess what? I meant to mention this earlier when JC was on. Hoops starts tonight. Don't they have an exhibition game tonight?
That's right. They're playing Embry-Riddle in an exhibition game. And then I think it's a week from tomorrow that the real season starts. So Chris Harry, he's dribbling a ball around campus right now, getting ready, man. But yeah, I mean, it's that time of year. So, hey, it's a good time, to share some of the attention there with the way the football is going. But I'm curious to see about this team, Shane, because they got so many new players. So we'll just have to all see together. It's going to be a different look from Mike White's team for sure.
No doubt. Joe on Facebook Live wants to know, he said, it looks like Scott's in Fiji. Are you in Fiji this morning?
Yeah, I needed a break. I came down to Fiji for the morning. I wish I was in Fiji, Shane. But yeah, it's one of these little – I don't even know how that got there, to be honest. One of those screen
it looks good.
backgrounds. It's either that or the wall of my bedroom here.
There you go. You got the waves coming in. All right, Scott, Saturday, obviously, the Gators win the game. It was – I felt like it was waiting for the dam to break almost, Yeah. I thought the biggest turning point of the game, and there's always 4 or 5 different plays here or there that you can decide on the outcome of a game. But I can't remember if the game was still tied 0-0 or we were down 3-0 when we had the ball driving, and somehow we ran a trick play. The double pass when it was 2nd and 15 or 2nd and 16, which is a terrible time to call that play. And it ain't fooling anybody that in that stadium that has a pulse and saw Anthony go line up at wide receiver 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, knew it was a double pass was coming.
Yeah.
That sequence, and then we go for it on 4th and 12, 4th and 13 instead of trying a field goal. After that, I was like, this ain't going to work out real well.
Yeah. No, I had a bad feeling after that, too. I mean, we all know Dan Mullen has a great knack for those trick plays, and he went to his bag of tricks earlier than I think I expected or that he usually does, and I think that was maybe just a case of he knew, like, look, this Georgia defense, it's really good. We're going to have to let's see if we can catch them early. It didn't work out. And you're right. After that, I didn't feel good at all, really, Shane, about the way the offense was going. But when you kind of are showing a desperate move that early, I think that tells you a little bit about the mindset there. They knew they were going to have to pull all the tricks out, and when you pull one out and it doesn't work, and you know that you're probably not going to have but another chance or two of those, and it really deflates you a little more. And then, of course, it did set up a long 4th down and eventually a turnover. And it's a weird. That was a really weird game when you look at the final book. If in 25 years, once the context is lost, somebody picks up the book and looks at it like, man, how did that game get so crazy there with the stat book? But I mean, Georgia, they won that game in a matter of about 3 minutes in the second quarter, and it was kind of gift wrapped to them in a lot of ways. But also, if they didn't even have those turnovers, I just don't know if Florida would have scored too much on that defense. That is a elite defense, Shane.
Yeah, they're really good. Nancy asked here on Facebook Live, brought to you by Metalog, does Dan still call the offensive plays? Yes, he does them all.
Yes.
Marcus, if the DB had stayed in the end zone after the interception, would have gotten the ball in the 25, this would have stopped the 21-point death march. Possibly. I can't fault the kid for that. I mean, it just happens. They want to make a play, don't really know where you are on the field. But it was a matter of time. I mean, Georgia's a really, really good football team. I mean, we're fortunate they turned it over 3 times as well, because if they don't turn it over 3 times, who knows what happens. What was the mood like? Whether, I know they still do all the pressers via Zoom, correct, after the game?
Yeah, they do. I ventured down after the game. I mean, it was what you'd expect, Shane. It was not too upbeat. I think the main thing with Mullen was, he was a little bit passionate in his talk to the team, because he knows that when things aren't going right, like they are not right now, he had to have the team's attention, and he really stressed, like, hey, guys, we got to get this fixed. We got to turn it around. It starts with me. And now that's what, his message was publicly, too, after the game, which is it was a change of pace a little bit for him. I know a lot of fans have been frustrated with Dan this year, maybe not taking ownership after a couple of bad performances. He certainly did that after the Georgia game. And now, I mean, he's facing a critical crossroads of his tenure at Florida. It's the old question, Shane, where do you go from here? 4-4, not what anybody expected, but they're all 4 winnable games. Then you get a bowl game. If you can finish the season somehow on a nice winning streak, build some momentum into recruiting in the off season. Obviously, probably going to be a change here or there. But after Saturday's loss, I think it was just a reality check. Okay, this is where we are. It's certainly a lot different than when we were last year when we played Georgia. Since then, Georgia's 12-0. The Gators are 8-7. That's not what anyone at Florida wants, and that's just the reality of where the Gators are right now.
Don had a message question on Facebook Live, and I saw it on Twitter. Maybe you saw this or not, but it was all about the players or player that stayed for the alma mater after the game. Did you see any of that stuff, Scott? How many players actually were there?
Yeah, I mean, there's that one picture of Jordan Pouncey that's getting a lot of play. It was an angle shot that showed him as the only one. There weren't a lot of guys out there, but Zach Carter was out there, Damian Pierce was out there, Josh Braun was out there. There were more than one guy, but it was only a handful. Zach Carter, I know, tweeted last night, look, he loves the Gators, his university. He's always going to stay out there. I'm guessing Mullen will get asked about that at his press conference today. Was that disappointing? What's behind that? I just think it's one of those games. They're in an unusual setting, Shane. A lot of these guys have never been to a Florida Georgia game. They just lost. You go back to locker room access there. As you know, it's right behind the bench there. So it's just an easy exit for some of the guys. So I don't think there was anything behind it, like intentionally for the players. It's just circumstances. But at the same time, I know that's an important part of the program's tradition. And you've heard coaches say over the years, win or lose, you want your guys out there doing that. So maybe that will be something that Mullen stresses this week, just to remind those guys.
John says on Facebook Live, Scott, I felt like this was the first time that Mullen was accountable after the game. Dan talked about changing the mindset. What do you think Mullen does to change the trajectory of the football program?
Well, number one, obviously, just day to day, give them some hope, give them some leadership, make sure that the young guys especially realize what they're playing for here. They're playing for the future. They're playing for pride. They're playing to, still get to a bowl game. They're playing to beat Florida State. So you still have a lot of stuff on the table this year. It's not what anybody envisioned. And then Shane, what the real question is probably going to be answered after the season. What changes does he make? Is it some in recruiting? Is it some on coaching staff? It could be a lot of different ways. I think it's just when you're in his chair and you're in these situations, first couple of years, man, the honeymoon was sweet, right? He really did do what he was hired to do. He came in and changed the trajectory of the program right away. They went from a losing season in 17 to 10 wins in 18 to 11 wins in 19. And then, of course, COVID year, they had a slump at the end, but they still won the SEC East. They beat Georgia, and you're feeling like, okay, this year a lot's possible, especially after that performance against Alabama. And it's just going sideways, Shane. I mean, it's going sideways fast. We've all seen it go sideways at times. This one has kind of caught a lot of people off guard, and I think now Dan Mullen has to dig deep down and really evaluate what he's doing on a day-to-day basis to get the program back quickly and to also recapture, I think, some of the fan base, unfortunately, that seems to have turned here, fair or unfairly,
Hey, Chris Doring Mortgage, they do mortgage lending right, helping home buyers throughout Gainesville and North Central Florida. Call Chris Doring Mortgage today at 352-244-0840. Speaking with Scott Carter here on the Titan MR hotline. Scott, I brought this up. I saw it on Twitter. Sometimes when I said it before I go to sleep, I read Twitter and or look at some stuff on Twitter to see if I can talk about anything on my show. And this one came up, and it came from Ross Dellinger. I don't know if you saw the video somebody put on Twitter, Dan's presser, Kirby's presser, and all Kirby talked about how you can't outcoach recruiting.
Yeah.
In the last 4 years, Georgia leads the country in 5-star signings with 20, where Florida's only signed 2.
Yeah.
I mean, you were at the game.
Yeah.
Just the eyeball test, warm-ups, first play of the game, you basically said these dudes have some cats.
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell. I mean, you don't have to be a scout or a player personnel director just to, like you said, the eyeball test. You look out there, Georgia's got some guys that are bigger and faster and move quicker. I mean, there's very few people in the country who are like Jordan Davis. I mean, he's a freak. But they have a couple of those freaks behind him too. So when you get those players and you look at a program like Florida that has some good frontline players, but they just don't have the depth, Shane. And they still, I don't think they had the star maker power, certainly on offense last year. They were clearly better than Georgia. I think really where, to me, it's shown up lately is on defense. I just don't know how good, the talent overall is there. And Georgia's, man, I mean, that defense, it was just special. And, I tweeted last night, I mean, I think in Mullen's tenure, the best defensive player the Gators have had is John Grenard, who is doing pretty well with the NFL right now. And he was only there 1 year. And Mullen, they've been able to cover some of those gaps through the transfer portal. But you can't do that every year. And you eventually have to develop some of those guys. And I mean, they've certainly developed some players. on defense, and they're going to, get more. But I think when I look at the recruiting thing, Shane, it all goes back. The college football playoff. It's been in existence now for 7 or 8 years. We've talked about it. There's only been a handful of programs that have been in there. Florida's not one of them. Until you get in there, these young guys, these kids, they want to go to those programs. And the Gators have to find a way to get there and to have that as another recruiting tool, because until you do, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State are going to get the bulk of those players, sadly,
And Oklahoma. Throw Oklahoma there. Yeah. Somebody brought up, what Kirby's message was in his recruiting deal was 25% of the program is made up of evaluating the players, 50% is all recruiting, and the leftover 25% is coaching. So he said basically we have the best defense in America because we have the best players. And he said that his wife and kids understand that he's going to spend more time with other people's families than his own family, and they've bought into that. So you can't argue with what he's done. I mean, I know people can say he may not be a great game day coach. I think he's gotten better, but he's got a really, really good football team this year, and I'll be surprised if they don't win at all. It's hard to say. Scott, anything else? We had somebody earlier ask, do we know anything about Anthony Richardson? He left the game. It looked to me like he had some kind of concussion.
Yeah, that's the word. We'll have to wait to see on what the official evaluation is. So if that's the case, he's going to be out probably at the start of practice this week. So you would imagine Emory would maybe get back in there to take more of the first team reps. And, Anthony had a rough day, man. We saw it up close, and there's a lot of, I think some of the people realize, okay, now we know what Dan was saying kind of between the lines. We saw it firsthand. Still think he's going to be a really good college quarterback. Think he's going to make some great plays for the Gators down the road. But he's still raw, man. So it's just one of the another layer of where the Gators are right now. Shane, they got a lot of work to do. I think it's what they call it, soul searching. These are the times where you do some soul searching to see if they can pull it together and get some wins. And they're going to have to play a South Carolina team this week. Let's face it, not very good. So they come along at a good time.
Yeah, Norman says Georgia's offense is not that good, though. I think they're better than you think. I don't think Stetson played his best game. I mean, he had 2 interceptions. Georgia also had a fumble. They're pretty good, though. Their offensive line, their running backs are outstanding. Scott, so right now, what bowl game does Scott Carter hope the Gators go to?
Well, I think the chatter has been the Duke Mayonnaise Bowl up in Charlotte. It's kind of funny if you look at the bowl games that are on the table with SEC schools. I think that's probably the only one the Gators haven't been to my knowledge.
We haven't been to the Music City Bowl, have we?
No, we haven't. Nope.
That's where we need to go.
Yeah.
We need to go 8-4 and go to the Music City Bowl in Nashville.
Yes, Nashville greater than Charlotte, in my view. Both cities are fine cities, but I'd probably just rather go to Nashville. So Music City Bowl would be good. The guys, that's where they are. But it's important to, get one of those bowls, Shane, and just to have something like we talked earlier. You got to have some momentum going into the off season, and you got to find a way to get it right before Florida State, because they're playing better now. Even though they lost to Clemson, they're playing better. And you look at the big 3, Shane. I was looking at them. They're a combined 11-13. Florida State, Miami. It's crazy when you think about it. Like me and you seeing what happened in the 90s. I mean, you just didn't see this very often. And Florida State, if they'd won the other day, all 3 of them would be 4-4. So, but they're 3-5. So it's just one of those years. The Gators are in it. I think this team is I think Florida is better than Florida State and Miami. But right now the record is not showing it.
No, Miami had a big win over Pitt. Kyle, before we let you go here, Kyle says, I'm afraid of South Carolina. Dan doesn't coach well against teams the Gators should beat. Let me tell you something, folks. South Carolina has one of the worst offenses in maybe the history of the SEC. I mean, they're so bad offensively. We'll see, though. I mean, it's Williams-Brice. It's a 7:30 game, unfortunately. It's a night game. But it's a team that Florida should beat easily. Easily.
Yeah. Well, this is a game that it shouldn't really matter who they could be playing, Sacred Heart. It just shouldn't matter to the Gators because they have to show something this week. They have to, they need to come out angry, man. They need to come out on a mission. And, that you look back at that Georgia game, I mean, that thing, when it was 0-0 late in the second half, I mean, I was looking at, you could say those teams played pretty evenly for the first 20-some minutes of that game. And I was in your head, you're starting to think, wow, if they can keep this thing 3-0 at halftime, that's a huge win. And of course, we know what happened. But they just have to flush that and come out and get a road win at South Carolina. And one at a time, Shane. That's the old cliche, but that's where they are.
Yep, they got. I mean, you don't want to. I tell everybody, your record of the years you were at school are going to be stamped in that Florida. This thing right here, this media guide, for the rest of your life. I mean, the best you can do right now is 8-4 back-to-back years. You need to try to do everything you possibly can because you do not want to be 7-5, 6-6, or anything like that.
No, and that's the mission. I'm sure Mullen has their attention. I think, also he's going to be tested in a different way this week. I think, in his time at Florida, this is obviously something he hasn't really experienced yet. So we're all going to learn how it looks together.
Yep. Scott, good stuff as always, buddy. We appreciate it. Everybody go check his workout at FloridaGators.com. We'll talk to you next week, Scott.
All right. Thanks, Shane.
That's Scott Carter. Join us on the Titan More Hotline. We'll take our final time out, come back, wrap up this Monday edition.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, won't back down. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. Comfort Temp, comfort is our business, peace of mind is our promise. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Great Clips, it's gonna be great. Our Gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Celebration Point Town Center, South State Bank, Chris Doring Mortgage, Silverback Concrete Co. Some of our touchdown sponsors are MB Listing, McDonald's of Gainesville, My IT Masters, Gainesville Neon and Signs, 84 Lumber, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Avera and Smith, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Ruse Ogra Agent, State Farm Insurance, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you are interested in promoting your business on the show, visit potupwithshane.com and click the Advertise button. Again, thank you to all the great businesses that support the show. If you like what we are doing here, make sure you follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Center State Bank is now South State Bank, but we still put business first. We understand that small businesses need a community business partner that they can rely on. South State still has 4 convenient Alachua County locations. South State Bank, banking forward, member FDIC. This day in sports brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Comfort is our business. Peace of mind is our promise. They're giving $1,000 signing bonuses for qualified positions. Give Comfort Temp a call at 352-376-2366. This day in sports, back in 2003, Arkansas beats Kentucky 71-63 at Commonwealth Stadium, ties the NCAA record for the longest football game ever played with 7 overtimes. I'm not sure if that's been beaten since then. We know that they changed the overtime rules recently, but that's brought to you by our good friends at Comfort Temp. Hope you enjoyed today's show, folks. Be safe out there. Beautiful weather. Enjoy the day. We'll see you tomorrow. Today's show's a wrap, brought to you by Wrap Spot. Take care.